deer, skin them out, quarter them up, ready for the freezer process. Hang them upside down and skin them. Broken scale. I'm guessing this deer is 230. 230 to 250. I don't think good sized deer. His fronts are bigger than his hinds. Somebody shot him right here. Right through the top of the back. I can't believe they didn't crack his spine. And he was shot right through here. And then last year, it's the same deer. He was a half rack. Somebody shot him the year before. So somebody keeps shooting this deer and can't kill him. And I shot him facing me. Now quartering two. He was really close. I aimed right here in front of the shoulder so I didn't deflect away from the vitals. I ran it right up through him. And it come out right here. So basically going all the way through his whole vitals. Put a video. Here we go. Yeah. Tighten this down. Basically, the arrow crossed through him right here on an angle. So basically cutting through the vitals. You do not want to aim for the tip of the shoulder unless you're gun hunting at that angle. And you don't want to aim here. If you aim here, the heart is right here. That's where your heart is. The lungs comes up and comes all the way back to here like this. That's about where your lungs are. So if you aim too low and too far behind on a quarter and two, you're going to get liver, stomach, and there's an artery that runs down in here. If you hit them real low, you'll hit that artery and he's done. 30, 40 yards, dead, sprained. And that's a lot of times people shoot them right here and they think they heart shot them. They hit that artery. I think it's the caloric. They hit that artery right there. See, it's the aortic or the caloric. I don't know. One of the arteries that runs through the bottom right here. You hit that, it kills them. But if you hit behind the heart, above the artery, and below the lungs, there's an area here where they can go a long time without dying, unless you get the liver real good. If you get the liver, it's like 15 to 20 hours, he's dead. But if he's severely quartered and you aim right here, your stomach's punching them, and they'll run 5 miles, and you'll be chasing them with a dog, and then somebody else will find them, cut the head off, and get you wrecked. And you don't get the meat, the deer's wasted. So on a quarter and two, you'd rather be in front of the shoulder, but you gotta make sure you don't hit the brisket. If you hit the brisket, it's going to stop your arrow. If you hit a hard bone, it's going to stop your arrow. That arrow's got to go in about that far to start getting into the lungs up in here. Now you got some frontal lung that sits in here that wraps around the heart. And if you try to go through the blade, it's going to deflect. And the whole front of the deer is built like a tunnel. His rib cage, his shoulders, his neck, everything's tunneling away from the vitals. So when you come in at the bad angle, it'll deflect down the ribs and run. And if you come in like right here too tight to the shoulder and you don't get into that where the neck, throat, and it gets inside of him, you end up running down the side of the ribs and you don't even kill him. You just run around with arrows sticking out of them. So your angles are very important. You got to know your angles when you're taking frontal shots. I don't like doing it unless they're really close. And this deer was really close. It doesn't show that on the video, but he was 15, 20 yards. And the GoPros are so zoomed out. I didn't have my camcorder. I left my SD cards at home. I formatted them and forgot to bring them. I'd had awesome footage if I'd had my good camera. But that's what I'm doing now is I'm documenting all my hunting and everything that I do. So when I skin a deer, I start up here at the vent, which is the butthole. Oh, I need to get a bag and throw the garbage in. You start at the vent. And you cut, what I do is I cut right up to where the white and the brown, like this, just like coyotes, just like anything else, just follow that up. If you're gonna mount it, you're only gonna need, like from here down is what I say, but I skim the whole thing out and give it to them. And I can cape this thing all the way down to the neck, about right here. And then all you got is hide and neck, and you try to keep as much meat off of the hide as you can so your taxidermist ain't crying about fleshing. You have to get all the flesh off the hide, and then he's got to cure it and tan it, send it out, and whatever. If you leave too much junk on there, It's more time for him to prep the cape, and then he could, if he's not good at it or he doesn't have a good fleshing machine, then he'll cut through your hide and you'll have an ugly spot. And then luckily this is up high. I'm not mounting this deer anyways. He's an old deer with a small rack. He's a decent size. He's not no 2-year-old deer, 2 or 3-year-old deer. He's a little older. Wasn't the deer I thought I was going to kill, but there was 2 of them in there. I've had on camera all summer. This is one of them. He was a smaller rack deer, bigger body, but smaller rack. So that other one's going to survive, and maybe next year he'll be a monster. Unless somebody wounds him, then he'll have another junked up rack. And it happens out here a lot. A lot of hunters, a lot of bad shot hunters don't know how to get their angles right, and they rush shots, and they're vertical bow hunters, and they get excited, and they misjudge yardage, and take long shots, and hit deer high, and get nervous, and it happens. I miss deer too. But once I got a crossbow and an automatic rangefinder, it's game over. I don't even play games with it anymore. My outdoor is shuffling. I might have dolled this one up the other day, cutting the other deer up. No, that's not bad. And I'm not too picky about the rear end. I'm not keeping the cape on this deer. I'm just gonna cape them off, just for video purposes. I cut around the leg. Don't cut the tendon because then it'll fall down. This stuff takes time, you know, take your time. Don't get in a hurry. Don't want to cut yourself or cut through the tendon. And when you're doing your own deer for mounting, you want to take your time so you don't cut into your cape. It doesn't take much. You see I nicked it right there. It doesn't take much. You can, you know, you can cut into it pretty good, but see right there, boom, I cut into it. You gotta be careful. This don't matter, it's not rear end. You can go a little faster and hack it a little bit, but the more you hack into the hair, the more hair you get on the meat, and that sucks. And I don't separate, I mean, I can go through and separate muscle groups and stuff, but I mostly make snack sticks and summer sausage out of my deer and ground up burger. So I am not worried about hacking into a little bit of meat. I chunk it all up and freeze it anyway, so. I'm not a big fan of eating venison steak. I want steak, I'll go get a ribeye. I like making the smoked stuff, sausages and snack sticks. So that's why I don't really care about hacking into the meat a little bit. And honestly, I'm not even that good at it. I can just do it. There's other guys that are way better at skinning deer, like the processors. They cut and skin these things real fast. I just do what I can do because I shoot $2 a year, sometimes up to 5 does, 3 to 5 does, 2 does, and all that process, $100 for this and $100 for that, it just adds up. You can do it yourself. Plus, when you take your deer in to get processed, you'll have your local DNR officer in there and they check all your tags, and I've had them record my tags wrong, you know, months off. And then I have to deal with them trying to figure out why I shot a deer in October and bought my license in October, and I'm getting it processed in November. They were a whole month off. Shot it. It was stupid. Like, yeah, so I shot a deer in October, and now I'm getting it processed in November. It'd be rotten. And that year, that's why I always good advice is buy your tags before the season. One year I bought my tag, it was like, I bought my tag October 4th, shot my deer November 3rd, and they put down that I shot my deer October 3rd. That's what happened. So then they're like, well, you shot a deer and then bought a tag. I'm like, no, that was a month ago. I bought my tag a month ago, and now I'm getting it processed, and then they cleared it all up. But when that happened, I was like, all right, I'm done taking my deer in, because now they just want to record your tag wrong, and now they want to mess with you. No, I'm just not into that. I just do my own thing. And then I'll show you how to get the tail off. Hook blades work good too. Brand new hook blades work really well for this because you're not going to cut into the meat. You're just cutting the fur. And like if you're not going to keep the whole cape, you can cut a little hole in the cape and it gives you a little handle. You know, especially in the rear end, you're not saving none of this. Unless you're doing a full body mount. And I ain't doing that unless it's a 200-inch deer. Or a state record or something crazy. Just work it around, take your time, don't cut yourself. It's kind of like peeling it back and filleting it. Give it that silver skin or whatever their membrane in there that holds the fur, the hide. A little bit of skin and clear looking stuff. When I do chunk my meat up, I cut all the white tallow and silver skin and everything off of it, so it's just mostly protein, mostly meat. Red venison is what I like. Good to have a sharp knife, that's for sure. You buy these outdoor edges that you can replace with blades, they help. You start getting dull, you just pop them out, put a new one in, buy more. They're not too expensive. Right here, I'll cut me a little hole. And you can see it, I'll cut me a little hole in the hide. You get my finger in there, now I can pull down some pressure on it. And then once you get it started past a certain point, you can just start grabbing the cape and just yanking it. That's why if you're a doe hunter, do it right away. When she's hot, just fresh killed. This hide, I should have did it the other day. I had to work the next day and I shot them in the afternoon. It took me a while to get them out of the woods. Let them hang for a day. It's cool. It was hot out, but my pole barn stays pretty cool. It hurt nothing. Right here, you get down to the tail. A lot of fat on this deer. The tail. Cut all the way underneath like that, so the knife comes through both sides. And then instead of using your good blade, I'm gonna saw all that. We'll get a battery real quick. That's right here now. Sawzall. I like to use a cut bone and stuff. Sawzall the tail. It's that simple. Kill your blade. Save that stuff for the power tool. And you just cut back into the tallow and get as close to the skin as you can so it's easier to pull. Once I get down to this level, I'm going to raise them up and I'm going to pull. I'm going to pull them off. Get it out around the front where it's not pulling against all this. Start getting into this part right here. Big old chunk of fat, eating good. Another thing too, when you gut a deer and you hang it, cut your inner loins out right away. Don't leave your inner loins in; they'll dry out and then they'll be nasty. Reach up in there, cut it up in here, and cut it right in here, and just pull them out by hand. It's so soft and stringy, you can just rip it right out of there. Really, really nice. And you guys get to see where somebody wounded this deer before I got him. So not a bad thing I got him, so he doesn't get all nasty. His rack will be small again next year. That's a problem when they get shot. It messes, all the energy goes to fixing the wound and not to the rack. I'm almost ready to break him up. I want to get him up high so I can pull him down. Just like that, you pull, you can't pull no more, and then you make some cuts on it right here. I encourage everybody to start doing their own deer. It's not difficult. And it's rewarding, and you're like, you do everything yourself, and it saves money, and a lot of people don't have time, but you just gotta make time. If you're gonna be a hunter, you just gotta make time. My only day off this week, you know, cutting deer up. Takes a day to kill them and a day to quarter them up, and then I will process a leg every night or just freeze them until I feel like dealing with them. Doesn't hurt nothing to freeze a whole leg and you thaw it out and just cut off the meat. I chunk them off. Some people go into muscle groups and make their steaks and all that. I don't. I chunk. You get past all that tattle, I should hold it easier. Down the brisket where I gutted them. Pressure, pull and cut. So it's nice kind of glide through all that. You don't have to even put very much pressure on it. So here you cut through all that and pull. My arrow come out right there. Curious to see if somebody else shot. I'm curious to see them coming up pretty soon. I think they were lined up pretty good. They hit them lower, they got them. I just hit them too high. Basically, just working this all the way down. Just looking at some brisket chunks and meat and stuff right here. I don't mess with all this small stuff. Like when I grind my venison, I grind up solid protein. I don't use trimmings. Trimmings is dog food. I'm not doing that. Hiked him up a little too high. Sorry about it. Down a little bit. Fingers out of these stupid gloves so I can grip. Grab this thing. Keep it on my arm. Getting small like deer. Hard to get the stink off me. Get that blood on me. You know what? Watch this. I bet you I can hook my winch up to the thing and just rip it right off. See if this works. First time doing this, but I've seen other people do some stuff with dog food. Oh yeah, that's sweet. Check this out. This angle right here. This is gonna be sweet. Oh, hard. Nice down the shoulder. Now this is where I get into the legs. And cut around the legs like this. So you're going to tape it out, put it around the legs just like this. Cut up to black where it's brown and white, cut right up that gig line. Don't cut too far up because you don't want to get into your shoulder mount. You just cut right here to the elbow like that. Peel it back all the way around. That meat up on these front forearms is so much tendons and stuff in it. I mean, you can grind it. The processor, they grind that into your burger and all that. Sometimes I'll fillet it and get all the little pieces out if I got time. But dog food, you got dogs that love venison. And what you're trying to do is cut this up as high as you can. And I'll show you. Take your saws off, and you cut that off, you cut that leg right off. And then when I do my shoulders, I pull my bone out from inside the shoulder so I don't have any cuts around my cape. Cut the leg right off like that. See? Now, do the same thing on the other side. Come right up that gig line where they're two different color, white to brown. Peel it like you're filleting a fish. On the other side. Peel it up. Cut out away. Always try to cut away from yourself. I'm not the greatest with a knife, but I've cut a lot of deer, so it's not scared to do some things. But beginners, be careful. Cut the crap out of you. Same thing, cut the leg up tight as you can. Boom. There goes his front. Now, what I can do, I'll lower him back down. You don't really, it just helps having pressure on him. If I had him more clamp, like you could run a pulley on the ground and up and pull straight down. That would be sweet. That'd be really sweet. And I probably will do that one day. That's not one. What the heck was that? Yeah? Okay. You see, I get a lot of pressure coming into the shoulder right here. I got this front down and get the cape over the legs like this. See how you pull it over the top of that leg. Now you can get in here and cut this brisket. With the legs in the way, I can't get the cape over top of the legs. The legs sticking on, it's getting hung up, you know. So, cut the legs off. Now you can get into the brisket area, and that takes a lot of pressure off when you're trying to pull. And this is where you're going to start getting into some flank meat and stuff. If you can fillet it all out, that's good. You can grind that up in your burger, all this flank. But this is where you got to watch all this extra meat on your capes. See it starting to get into it right there, the shoulder. So now this is your shoulder, right? You just do that. You just kind of come and cut that silver liner, that tendon-looking, clear, translucent skin. You start cutting into that, and then you work this over the arm. See? Here comes the arm. Right there, that's your shoulder. That's where I cut with the sawzall right there. You know, like I hack some of this up. I ain't worried about all that. I grind all my meat up. This is just do it yourself, save some money, make some snack sticks. Here's the other side, same thing. You just start working it over. Hopefully moving the camera, but you kind of, you'll see when you get to these shoulders like this, once you remove the legs, you just kind of you'll see the shoulder start popping through that silver skin. And like right here, my finger getting snagged on, you can almost just pull it over. Just relief cut it, you know. Now you're past the shoulders to where you don't have to worry about cutting into your cape. Right? This is your cape right here. This is from right here forward. You don't want to cut into this. So now I'm past that shoulder. And you take your time here. If this is a deer you want to mount, just go slow. No reason to rush it, because the more you cut into the cape, the more it's going to cost you to fix it. You know, they charge to fix that stuff. That's why when you shoot them frontal like that, you make a bigger hole, they got to fix it, and it looks like, it doesn't look the greatest. Now you can reach up in here. Some pressure. There's never a lot of fat in the shoulders, so it's just skin and muscle. Especially now they're coming into the, rubbing their antlers and building their necks up. They're going to lose some of that fat. Now we're getting to the bottom of the arm. See, watch, there's a tendon that just popped out. And we're on the inside. And always cut back towards what you've already skinned. Never cut towards where you're cutting towards your cape. Cut away from it. You know, keep your blade a little angle. You don't want to be cutting down into your cape. You cut away from your cape. So you don't goof the cape up. You know, you get down into here, separate this. Now we're getting into a little bit of brisket meat. You can try to get some of that off of there, so it's not more that the taxidermist has to flesh. You know, like you're coming down, you start getting into more, like he has to flesh all this, like if he was saving that. You have to get that off of there. And like you just keep working it around. Keep working it around, down, down, down. Amazing. That's where he was shot, right here. It healed up. So this deer was shot last year, is what it was. There's the hole. Right there, it's already healing. This wasn't shot this year. This deer's been wounded. That's why its rack's so goofed though. This might be, I don't know what deer this is now. I thought this was shot this year. He healed that from last year. That arrow went right through there. And because it blew some of the tissue out, and it came out right here. That's where it came out, right there. Just shot him right high through the spine. I can't believe it didn't break his back. Wow. They're amazing at surviving. Amazing. It almost looks like a bullet. I don't know if that's a broadhead or not. I think a bullet was broke his back. Still a lot of pressure on the brisket. I'm going to get that brisket going down. Unhook this. Spin it. Show you. It's going to be coming down the shoulder here. internal stuff going on from the shot. So this is when he was dead, when he died, he laid on his side and that blood started running inside his cavity. His cave. Right here, see all this extra meat? Try to avoid all that. It's hard sometimes. A little bit of flank meat in the front brisket area. It's coming down. Some tendons, forearm tendons. Just stick your finger through like that and just cut away. Boom. Stay off this. Try to keep that off the hide. This is where it gets harder to like pull them down or to get a grip on them. This, I mean, if you look, that skin is so tight to the meat. It's just very difficult. This is where you can really got to take your time for your shoulder mounts so you don't cut through it. You see I left a little bit of meat on it right here. I'm not keeping it. I might freeze it and give it to the taxidermist if he wants to salvage it. It's a mature, you know, it's a big neck deer, and that neck is huge. Look at that. He ain't even a rut yet. Here in a couple more weeks, the neck's gonna be huge. The neck is usually a good indicator of how mature they are. When the neck comes all the way down to their brisket, solid, heavy neck right down to the brisket, that's not a young deer. See, if you can, there's a little bit of meat on there. You can leave it, like they'll flesh it, but like your taxidermist, if you can cut, like just go real slow, like that. Don't like cut straight into your hide, just kind of peel and scrape. You want to get some of that flesh off there, just easier for him. Just easier for him to. When he has to prep the cape, he doesn't have to deal with all that extra meat. Like if you're cutting into your deer and you're seeing meat, you can go deeper because that's on the outside. You're not cutting into the fur, you're still cutting into the meat. You can cut it back, you can cut a little bit deeper to get rid of all that extra crap. Right here, you see how there's still, you got your fur, and you still got meat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in until I start seeing just white, like that. And it always helps to have pressure. Now you get down to his head like this, get your cape over his face, cape over the rack. You know, now you got a hole, here's a hole where he was shot. Look at that. Almost like a bullet hole. Boom, boom, right there. That's where he was shot last year. And it's hard on there's like a scab on top. To me, I thought it was this year, but that's why his racks he's not a high scoring deer. Somebody wounded him. He would have been a monster. Big old giant rack. I thought it was from the year before, so this could be a different deer. Or he was wounded 2 years before and it's still healing. I don't know. I had a half rack in there last year that was mature, and he lived there all season. Nobody killed him. This might have been him. This is after his second year of being wounded. His rack's just miniature. And deer out here get 4, 5, 6 years old, they get very high scoring, beautiful racks. That when they're not wounded. But almost every deer out here that makes it to that age has a broadhead or a gunshot in him. Is that 2 and 3 years old, they walk. They're in the rut, they walk. During gun season, they walk. They're doe pushers. They come into all them does, and there's hunters okay, put it this way, where I hunt, if a deer walks a half mile to a mile in the daylight, he's getting shot or seen. And then he gets patterned and shot. That's just how it goes. Walks by a camera, walks by a hunter, they get seen. And then he'll have a nice big neck roast. The neck roast is just as good as back strap. It's that. It's got a lot of silver skin and a lot of stuff in it, but if you put it in a crock pot and let it render down, they are so tender, the necks, even though it's a muscle, and they like to puff up. Those got such small neck roast, it's almost not worth it. Grind it. Pause the video.